Hi, Marcy. Welcome. I'm so excited that we get to talk about the children's book that you've written based on the Grief Tower. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about this book?
Okay. So my name is Marcy Renee, and I currently live in Spain, but my French husband and my four boys and my world traveling dog, we've lived all over the world for the past 2 decades or more. And yes, we've had lots of different transitions in our lives. We are definitely global nomads. Our kids are third culture kids. The world is their home and they don't know where they belong. Kind of the typical, like, where are the roots? They're scattered even now, the kids that are older. So we've got 25, 23, 17, and 10. We've got this crazy age span, but they're scattered all over the world right now in Holland and England and soon to be Canada, and then with us in Spain. So we're just a global nomad family. And yeah, throughout the years, just have seen a lot of, as the kids have transitioned, just seen a lot of accumulated loss and grief, just with a lot of goodbyes, a lot of letting go of things and people and places that they love. And so it was interesting. I was familiar with your book, Lauren, and the whole concept of the grief tower. I mean, it's just a brilliant idea. And I was seeing that in my kids' lives throughout the years, but I never really knew prior to hearing about the grief tower. Just as I was walking alongside my kids and their grief and loss, I didn't really know how to talk about it with them. I didn't know, I couldn't even process my own stuff, as I was grieving my own losses. And I couldn't, I just didn't know how to help my kids. I didn't have the tools. And it wasn't until last summer, actually, our third son, he'd gone to the States. We were living in Spain. He went to the States to a youth conference, and someone handed him your book, Unstacking, the Grief Tower for adult TCKs.
Mhm.
And I saw it on his desk one day, went in, picked it up, started reading. It was one of those reads I started at the beginning, and I don't think I stopped that day. And I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so thankful that there are these resources out there for our adult TCKs, such a needed resource. But then I started thinking, wow, if only my kids and myself as a parent, if only I had had something when they were itty bitty, like the 3s and the 5s and the 7-year-olds, if I had had something, some tool, some conversation starter with them, I could have maybe helped them process their own stuff as well as my own. And so that's when I reached out to you, Lauren. I think it was, last summer or last fall, and just asked if you had thought about maybe doing a children's picture book of the grief tower concept. So that's kind of where that conversation started between us. So
Yeah, yes, it was just about a year ago, and I remember being so excited about the idea and also thinking, I don't know. I don't know what that's going to be like. And I think throughout the writing process, because you were so gracious in letting me be a big part of that, and seeing the drafts and giving input and giving just different ideas and that sort of thing. I remember throughout the writing process thinking, wow, this is really good. Like, this is going to be really, really awesome. But it wasn't until it had the illustrations and I was reading it through for the first time with the illustrations that it's a tearjerker, and it hit me, and I did not expect it
well,
to. Like, I read this story over and over and over. I'd read all the drafts, I'd read all the parts of it, but until it had the illustrations with it, all of a sudden I just was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so impactful. This is gonna be hugely beneficial to kids around the world who really need that tangible visual."
yeah.
That the grief tower is a helpful concept and a helpful analogy, and in a sense a visual, but they really need the pictures. They really need it to be a book that speaks to them, where they can look in the pictures and go, oh, I know that. I've been there. I've lived that.
Mhm.
So I would love for you to share a little bit about the illustrator, because that is a fun story in and of itself.
A huge part of it. Okay, so here is the book. We actually have two versions of the book. This is the faith-based journey. So the faith-based story to help children process grief and loss. So the blue one is faith-based, and then we have a green one that is a conversation story. So this is secular, not faith-based, but I'm going to be reading today, later on, the faith-based story. But yes, I hope you can see some of the images here. So this little guy, Pierre, who is the main character of the story, he's actually the main character of all of my books in Pierre's World Traveling Adventure series, but he looks exactly like our fourth son. So orange hair, orange tiger hair, and blue glasses. But Lakin Davy is the illustrator of these books, and this one as well. She is also a third culture kid, and I think that is the beauty of this story, because as she's been illustrating my other books, she has been very invested in it because it's, they're world traveling adventures. But this one in particular, I think really, really hit her at a personal level as well, because you can't read through this or work on this project without processing your own grief and loss. And so it's amazing throughout the illustrations. I'm just going to point out one in particular at the end. Lakin has brought her own story and her own TCK, third culture kid, life into it. So in this particular illustration, there is, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a mug that says, "I love Morocco." And so Lakin and her family, they lived in Morocco for many years. She's now back in South Africa. That's where she's from. So she's back living there and working as an artist. But she said, when we left Morocco, someone gave our family a mug that said, "I love Morocco." And she said, so as I was, processing my own story and doing the illustration, she said that was a part of my own journey that I wanted to bring into this. And there are other little details throughout there. But yes, Lakin, I think she caught the heart and the vision of this project from the get-go, because she is a third culture kid. She's lived this life. She doesn't have to imagine it. She can, it's very, very real. And I think part of my heart, Lauren, as you know, in those first conversations, was just to make sure that I was catching your heart and your vision, and what you had in that original vision of the grief tower. And it was really important to me that I really stay true to your message and what you had in that. And I think Lakin caught on that as well, and just did a beautiful job with these illustrations. So thankful. I mean, a children's picture book, an illustrator brings the words to life. So without Lakin and her amazing, amazing work, there would not be a beautiful children's picture book. So thankful for her.
Yes, it all came together so beautifully, for sure.
Yeah, but it is
Well,
a tearjerker.
it
I
is.
of that, Lauren. Before leaving for Spain, I had an opportunity at our kids' school. There are a lot of TCKs, but I read it to the fourth graders, fifth graders, seventh and eighth grade, the middle school classes, and then to the seniors. Well, my third son was a senior in that class, and then our youngest son was in the fourth grade class. But I could not get through the book. I had to stop several times and say, "I'm so sorry," because it's just a tearjerker. And I think also just because it is close to my heart and some personal stories. I'm
Mhm.
definitely processing my own stuff as I'm reading and working on the project. So
Yeah,
I think
you
the
can't help
lights
but
just
do
went
that.
out.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm in a room, but I think it might be action or movement sensitive.
That's funny. It's okay. We can still see you just fine, so no worries.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember you saying that, and saying that even some of the teachers and students were crying also, because it
Yes,
is
yeah,
so impactful and so relatable.
yes, definitely. Yeah, I just saw it was a place to start the conversation. And from that, and I had like my little rocks that I was carrying as I was reading the story, and I had them as well participate in that side of it. And yeah, I think that as I was reading the story, they were processing their own story. And then from that, it was just the perfect kind of, launch pad to just be able to engage in conversation. And I saw the kids open up, and then the teachers, there were quite some some heartfelt conversations after the reading. So yeah, really thankful for that.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I would love for you to read the book.
Okay,
While you go get the lights back on, I will tell people how that they can access this book and then about the coloring pages that are associated.
perfect. Okay.
So, this book is available on Amazon. Again, there's the faith-based version and the secular version, and both are available for purchase. If you'd like to purchase in bulk, so if you want maybe 10 or more, emailing Marcy is the best way to get a bulk order. And also, Marcy does live book readings, either in person if you're in her location, wherever she is at that point in time, or virtually. And so, if you are an organization or a school or a group of families who homeschool together or anything like that, and you would like a live reading of this book, feel free to reach out to her because I'm sure she would love to do that. Is
I
that
would-
is that accurate?
Yes, yes. And I
Perfect.
have lights back on, so it's most
Yay.
censored in this
I was
room.
worried the pictures might not show up quite as well as we wanted
Right.
them to. So,
Yes, yes,
all
definitely.
right.
Okay,
Well, if
so
you want to go ahead and
mhm,
begin reading, I will
okay,
mute myself and make sure that we can
okay.
hear you
I'm
well.
just gonna get situated here, so hopefully you all can see the pictures. Well, okay, so my tower is tumbling by Marcy Renee and illustrated by Lakin Davy, based on The Grief Tower by Lauren Wells. And I will just point out that there is a parent's note at the beginning, and that shares a little bit just about my personal journey and the why behind the book. So Pierre traveled the world with his parents and his 3 brothers. Their dog Sammy went everywhere with them. Pierre lived in many different countries: the United States, France, Morocco, Germany, Senegal, England, Holland, and Spain. Pierre liked to explore new places, learn foreign languages, and taste delicious foods. He loved living by the ocean, riding camels in the desert, shopping at the outdoor markets, eating couscous with his hands, drinking sweet mint tea, and reading from right to left. Pierre also liked to meet interesting people and make new friends. Those were the good things, the fun things Pierre experienced while he lived in faraway lands. Those were the things that made him happy, made him smile, made him want to sing and dance. But it wasn't all good. It wasn't all easy. There were difficult things too. The hard things Pierre experienced while he lived in different countries. Those were the things that made Pierre sad, made him angry, made him want to scream and cry. Every time something difficult happened to Pierre, he picked up a rock and carried it with him on his journey. Holding something in his hand helped him remember what happened. The rock helped him hold on tightly to the memory. When he had to leave his home and school and move to another country, another rock. When he could no longer hear the ocean waves from his bedroom, another rock. When he left his grandparents on the other side of the world, another rock. Pierre took his rocks everywhere with him, but they were heavy and hard to carry. Sometimes Pierre couldn't run or play. "What are all those rocks you're carrying?" Pierre's friend asked him. "I don't want to talk about them," he answered. When there were no more fun sand dunes to play on, another rock. When his favorite pet lizard died, another rock. when he had to say goodbye to his best friend, another rock. Pierre took his rocks everywhere with him, but they were heavy and hard to carry. Sometimes Pierre was tired and his arms were sore. Do you want me to help carry your rocks? Pierre's father asked him one day. They aren't heavy. I don't need help, he answered. No more Arabic words, no more beach soccer, no more African drums, no more fresh bread and fried donuts from the corner bakery, no more mint tea in silver teapots, no more. All along his journey, Pierre picked up more and more rocks, carefully carrying them everywhere he went, until crash, boom, bang, my rocks are falling, he screamed. His mother and father heard the loud noise and came running. Do you want to talk about your rocks now? His mother asked. Pierre nodded. You've gone through a lot, and you've been collecting rocks along the way. Each one tells a story, Pierre's father said, good ones and hard ones. If we don't pay attention to our rocks, they start to stack up, just like your tower. Today, your tower got too tall and too wobbly, and it came tumbling down, Pierre's mother said. Now it's time to look at each of your rocks. We'll be here with you, and God will help you too, Pierre's mother said. You can draw a picture of what you remember, or you can write a story about what happened. It may hurt and you might cry, but that's okay. Looking at your rocks is hard and takes courage. Pierre took time with his parents to talk about each of his rocks and to tell their stories. Then they prayed together. God, thank you for the good things, the good stories in Pierre's life. And thank you for being with him in the hard things too, the hard stories. We give you each of these rocks, each of these stories, and ask that you would help Pierre to trust you and feel better. It wasn't easy for Pierre to talk about his rocks, but it felt like God was lifting them out of his hands. Pierre felt better, lighter, freer. Can I keep my rocks? Pierre asked. Of course, his mother said. Your rocks will always be important to you. You can keep them and remember their stories, the good and hard parts, whenever you want to, whenever you need to. Your rocks can help you remember what God did in your heart today. Pierre picked up a rock. It said Omar, the name of his best friend he had to leave in Morocco. He placed it on his desk and smiled. Mom, can I go out to play with my new friend, Jonathan? I can run fast now. I don't have to carry my heavy rocks anymore. God is carrying them for me. The end.
The end. Thank you so much, Marcy. I love
Yes.
it so much. Can you tell us a little bit about the end of the book and what
Yes.
parent resources are?
Absolutely. So I mentioned at the beginning that there's the parent note, and that's just a note for you to understand my story and my heart behind it. And I think that's really important just to read before. And then at the end here, there's a note to parents from Lauren, from you, Lauren. And that just, is very helpful to understand her heart and her why behind this as well. And then some conversation starters that Lauren has provided that can be adapted to the child's age and are very helpful, just questions and interactive conversation starters. And then in the faith-based book, there is a guided prayer that Lauren has given us. And it's just so helpful, just a walk through, just a conversation that a parent can have, or a caregiver or a teacher with a child. And then there are some other interactive activities for parents and teachers. I provided just an emotion face feeling chart because a lot of younger kids don't have the vocabulary. Some adults don't as well have the vocabulary just to express emotion. So this can just be a helpful tool as well. And there's just some fun kind of treasure hunt interactive map activities as well. So lots of fun things to explore in the book. I really wanted it to be, more than just a children's picture book, but I really wanted it to be an educational resource and a conversation starter for kids. So I hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed reading.
Thank you, Marcy. And it absolutely is. And like you said, we want it to be not just a fun kids book, and it is a wonderful kids book, but it also can be something that can be so deeply impactful for them to start processing their own losses and their own grief in their journeys. So
Absolutely.
the
And
other interactive thing that Marcy's created is a coloring book that goes along with it, or coloring pages. And so we'll put the link to those coloring pages in the description of this video so you can go access those. But those are also available too, and those are free. So feel free to just download those and have your kids color them, and they'll know the characters if they've already read the book also.
right. Yes.
Well, is there anything else, Marcy, that we feel like they need to know about this book?
Yeah, I mean, I know that this is just kind of an insider's view, but I know I was talking to you, Lauren, when we first had the conversation, and I shared a little bit about my heart and desire to start the project. And I can remember sitting down once I had the okay, because I really felt I wanted your buy-in, in the sense that I really wanted this to be something that you felt could help, the vision and your message, to get that out to more people, that it could be a tool for healing. And I just remember sitting down at my computer, and typically when I write, I do a lot of poetry, a lot of children's books, but they usually come in kind of a swoosh, kind of a swoosh of inspiration, and then out it comes. And I remember this was just a little different just because of the way the conversation happened. But I really had that experience with this story. And I know I shared with you that, other than a few little tweaks as we kind of went back and forth with the manuscript and the story and even the illustrations, little things we adjusted. But this story, I just felt it was just such a divine story. I really believe that the grief tower, I know I've heard some of the origin of how that idea came about for you, that whole concept, but just really felt that this was a divine inspired story. And I just really hope that it will be just a tool and resource for parents, caregivers, and kids, just for healing in their lives. So yeah, just wanted to share that little bit of the story. It's been amazing as a writer when that does happen, and you just feel like, wow, I know this is what I need to do. I know that this is a story that needs to get out there.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And like I told you, that was really the same thing that happened with the Grief Tower book, the original one too, is I sat down and all of a sudden there was a book, and I I wasn't really sure exactly what happened. And now it's been one that I know thousands of families have read and have found really helpful in helping their kids to process grief. So I think this is just a continuation and another chapter of that, no pun intended. That's a really fun thing.
Yeah.
So again, y'all can get the book on Amazon. Email Marcy. We'll put her email in the description below this video as well. And I hope that you enjoy the book. I think
Yes.
it'll be a
Yes.
great resource.
Yes. Thank you all for listening. And Lauren, thank you again for your partnership and collaboration on the project. I'm just so happy to be working with you.
My pleasure. I've enjoyed it so much. All right. Bye, Marcy.
Bye.